Welcome to the Spiritual Speakeasy, where the bar is always open and the spirits are always served. Tonight's special guest is Brian Smith. I welcome him because he's my first horror author that I've had on. I've had other authors. He's published 80 short stories, all horror. Dead River, Consuming Darkness, Reflections, Mama's Babies, Bad Allergies, and he also has a collection of short stories. There's a new book called Blood on the Sand that's coming out in October of this year. He lives in Ohio, doesn't drink enough coffee, and is a big horror fan. Thinks that Halloween should replace, at least Valentine's Day. I'm up for Christmas as well.
We should
Welcome,
have we should have two Halloweens.
absolutely. Well, I mean, The Nightmare Before Christmas was a Halloween Christmas movie, so
True.
why can't we just have it all year round?
True.
Like, I would be very happy leaving my Halloween stuff up all year round. It makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, tell us more about yourself. How did you get into this? Like, how long you've been writing?
Well, I first got into this. I was young. My sister Brandy. She was really attached to me. I was attached to her. We were inseparable. And I used to read her bedtime stories, and my parents thought that I was really good with that kind of stuff, and they said you ought to try writing stories, for real. And I'm like, okay. I never really thought about it. And writing first came to me as a tool for my boredom. I wasn't part of the popular crowd. I wasn't one of the kids who spoke a lot. I just minded my own business and wrote. I like to write. I started to grow to like to write. I started to love it, and then eventually I spent my days writing. You know how you write your first great American novel, and it ends up,
Yeah.
yeah. And I spent a lot of time doing short stories. Wrote a couple first novels. None of them got published. I sold my first short story in 2006 to the
Wow. Okay.
Drabblecast, to the Drabblecast as a as a audio file, and I've been getting published since then. I haven't exactly hit the mark on everyone, but sometimes that's
That's
part of the
okay.
business. Yeah,
Why horror?
I grew up with it. I'm a Generation X kid. You know, I grew up. I remember when Freddie and Jason were first coming out of the woodwork.
Oh yeah,
I,
yeah.
I remember when slashers were coming out of the woodwork. They were trying to find something to compete with Freddie and Jason. Slumber Party Massacre, Sleepaway Camp, Pieces. I think I remember Pieces. I might be wrong. Silent Night, Deadly Night. But my
Those were so good. They were. I mean, they
they
were. They were so bad. They were good.
yeah, they were.
And you knew when you were going to jump. Like you knew, like okay, that door just shut. There's something in the closet, and then when it jumped, it still got you.
Yeah.
Like you were waiting so intently on that. I love those moments. I love those moments.
I always like when the slasher's tracking them down and they run and then they're like, okay, he hasn't shown up yet. He's not here. And then they look up and he's standing right above them.
Oh yeah,
You know?
yeah. Well, and my favorite commercial was the one where they had the chicks that with the boyfriend in the really cool sports car, and they got out and they hid behind the all the saws and the tools, the sharp tools,
Yeah.
and they're like, let's hide behind here.
Yeah.
This seems like a good idea. And I thought that
Idea.
was so cute because that's every horror movie. It is
Yeah.
every horror movie. It was
Yeah.
great because I mean I grew up watching horror movies as a kid. Um, I'm a lot older than you, but our family, like, Star Trek was horror back then. Some of that
Yeah.
stuff was really,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, and so you grew up and you got a taste of a little bit of scary stuff. The Birds
Yeah.
or Alfred Hitchcock's Birds. That was terrifying. That was like the Jaws of my day and age.
Yeah.
Well, you'd go outside and a bird would be there, and you'd be like, "Oh shit, man!" Like it's gonna get me.
Yeah.
Kind of like the youngins were with the Jaws and the same
Yeah.
thing though. It was exactly that same that
Yeah.
feeling. Like, you knew it couldn't really happen, but it could happen. It could.
Yeah.
So your stories are kind of like the slasher stories and
They're
the movie
they're
type of thing.
well, they're like they're mostly a lot of things that I like to sit and kind of play with, like certain ideas. Like a story, the very first story I published called A Day with Daddy. And it's in my book, Strange Discovery and Other Strange Discoveries. And I wrote that story because I encountered a woman at a local Walmart who carried around a doll and talked to it like it was her daughter.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
People
and
at
I think,
Walmart. Yeah.
and I'm like, okay. I mean, that's not. I wasn't like it's not something that I didn't write the story to bully her or demoralize her or demean
No.
her. I'm thinking like, okay, this is something like out of the Twilight Zone. Maybe she's the only one that can hear this doll talk, you know? And I wrote that story and I pushed it back a little bit because I'm thinking I'm probably going to offend this woman or I'm going to offend people like her. And this was
Mhm.
like way before people got offensive of anything you said. This was way before
That's
people
true.
got offensive.
Things have
And
changed a little bit. Yeah.
oh yeah, and I'm like, okay, I'm like maybe I shouldn't write this because I feel like it's going to be offensive. But no, but it's it's what I call a bully story. It just keeps tapping me on the shoulder and tapping me on the shoulder, going, "Hey, write this, write me. You'll wish you did." You know. And when I look back, I'm like, I'm glad I wrote it. I wrote it. I gave it to two people who turned it down. One person took it, and that was my first sale. And I got a lot. Like I said, I got a lot. Like I wasn't so much walking on eggshells. I was more like, I'm going to piss somebody off.
Well,
I
if
know.
no matter what you write, you're going to piss somebody off.
And you know what? If you're pissing them off, you must be doing something good.
They read
You
it.
know?
They had to
Yeah.
read it to be pissed off, so that's okay. Well, and
Because
do you come
because
from a paranormal background at all? Do you talk to spirits or do anything like that?
I know I have spirits. I've seen them before as a kid. I wanted to touch base on the subject we were talking about when it comes to offending people. I've
Mhm.
actually offended somebody in one of my novels.
Ah,
Yes.
well, good job. Then they read it.
They got to that part and stopped reading it.
That's
They
okay
stopped
though.
reading it. Yeah. And it was like I'm not sure. Have you seen the remake of The Hills Have Eyes?
Yes.
You know that scene where Ted Levine and his son are getting those guns ready, and the son tries to get the other guy to pick up a gun, and he's like, "Whoa, you know, pull back." And Ted Levine looks at his son and goes, "Son, Doug is a Democrat. He doesn't like guns." I wanted I wanted to do a nod to that because I kind of thought, well, I mean, I'm a Democrat. I I I'd like to have a gun at some point in time, but I did a nod to that in Dead River where Colin talks to where Jason, the teenage boy, he wants a gun, and his sister Stacy says, "No, Mom and Dad will kill me if they find out you have a gun." And Colin looks up at her and says, "What are they, Democrats?" They literally stopped after that. That's how mad they got at me.
Well, everybody has that choice to be offended or not be offended. And it's reading material. It's, to me, all readings, even autobiographies, are somewhat tongue in cheek. You know,
Yeah.
like you can't be so serious about yourself that you can't have humor. And you know, I mean, I have friends all over the place, including down the rabbit hole, conspiracy people, politically, and you got to be able to laugh at it all. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
strange world we live in, and I laugh at myself all the time. Shit, I'm always doing something stupid or silly, and you know, if you can't laugh at it,
Yeah.
it's, I mean,
Exactly.
the general public would probably agree with you because there's a lot of Democrats out there that don't believe in guns, but there's a lot
Yeah.
of I mean, you could have gone either way with it, and you probably would have offended and been fined in the same time.
Uh, I've had a lot of people book for that book, and neither one of them got the red ass about that. Neither one of them did.
Yeah. Well, and if they knew the horror stuff and they had seen that movie, they would have been prepared for that. So
Yeah.
do your research before you get offended. Do your research.
Yeah.
Hi, Lee. Lee Gerard is saying hi. Welcome to the
Oh,
podcast
hi,
with
Lee.
Brian. So metaphysically, so you said you know you've got spirits and things like that. So
I
none of these stories came from like paranormal ghost hunting or anything like that. It's literally triggered from your love of horror and sci-fi.
well, some of them, like some of the, I'm working on a paranormal investigator trilogy, and I just recently started the third and final book in the series, and I have always been like curious about the paranormal world. I've always been curious about that kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
because as a young child, I saw the paranormal. I saw spirits. I saw
Mm-hmm.
ghosts, and we moved in this split level house, um, street above Nelsonville, Ohio. I forgot which street it was, but one night I kept hearing like drums, ba-dum, 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 boom, boom. And I looked out my sister's bedroom window and I saw something walk in the trees. Heard it 2 nights later. Ba-dum, boom, 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 boom. I'm like, okay, what is that? What am I hearing? I don't. And when I looked out there to see it again, it was a figure in a Civil War outfit. And I was like, okay, maybe they're having a reenactment someplace, or maybe they're getting ready to have one. You know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they'll have one tomorrow. You know, and I was like, okay, you know, didn't really think anything of it. Went back to bed. 2 nights later, heard the drums again. This time I saw two more of them, and one of them had their hat cockeyed like this. Okay,
Uh-huh.
and there was a bullet hole through the bill, and
Oh.
I was like, okay, I want to go down and see this. So I ran downstairs, got to the front door, and another one stopped me in the doorway. And I froze. I just like, and stood there for like 2 minutes. 2 minutes that felt like 5 minutes.
Right.
And I just tiptoed back into the house, shut, locked the front door, engaged the deadbolt, put my dad's good toolbox in front of it and two chairs, ran to the living room, turned on the TV and threw a blanket over top of my head.
Uh-huh.
And I stayed up until that sun came up. We left there 3 months later. I asked the landlord, I said, what went on over here? Because I've seen them. I can't be the only one. He goes, you're not the only one. And by the way, this here yard, this whole road was where I guess some soldiers from the south got ambushed. I think there were like 12 or 15 of them. They got shot.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "You probably seen some of them just now. You
So,
probably saw them."
so I wonder if it was like, and what am I trying to say? I wonder if you were reacting intelligently with it, like it wanted you to stop, or if that was a residual haunting, that was the doorway, perhaps, or whatever was there was the doorway that they were trying to get into a house at the time, and they just keep, repeating that.
Yeah, I think because he said nobody's ever followed them, and they haven't come in the house. They've just stayed mostly in the yard.
So which tells me they approached something and then stopped, and it's just a pattern. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. What a break to get to see something like that, though. That's really cool.
yeah.
I mean, that's not something everybody sees every day.
And most people wouldn't have even went down there.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Most people
yeah,
would not have
you're
even
right,
went.
because it takes, you've got to be able to get past those nerves for sure. So how old were you when that happened?
I want to say, man, 10 or 11. Yeah,
And no one else in your family saw it? Your sister didn't see it? Your folks never saw it?
no, that's one of those stories I hardly tell anybody.
Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, nowadays you could talk about it, and you could probably be on somebody's show, right?
yeah.
Because everybody wants to hear about the ghost stories, but Civil War hauntings are not unusual. I mean,
No, yeah,
uh,
they're very few and far between. Most of you got to go mostly down like Virginia,
mhm.
North Carolina, South Carolina. You know, mostly
Pennsylvania,
you got to, yeah,
Gettysburg,
Pennsylvania.
those, yeah.
Yeah, you got to go mostly those. But I mean, in Ohio, I'm thinking like, how many did we actually have? Any? I know we had to have we had to have had some Confederate soldiers and some, you know, some blues and some gray.
Well, yeah, they're bound, and within the same family. That's the
Yeah,
thing. Within the same family, people, split on the side and ended up fighting each other or hiding each other out.
yeah.
So, so was that, would you say, because you like to write, that piqued your intrigue? Like to be able to watch and write the horror shows? It had to have helped.
I think in a way it it taught me don't walk up to one for yeah don't just if you see them leave them alone. Okay, let them go about their business. Let them go about their business. Just leave them alone. They want their peace and quiet. They want their privacy. They give you your privacy. Let them have theirs. And in a way, it helped me when I would write ghost stories. It would help me like articulate and describe what kind of ghost I wanted to have.
Hmm.
You know, like with this paranormal investigator trilogy I'm working on. Um, the first book it had black-eyed children. You know,
Ooh.
first book has black-eyed children. The second book has got like how can I say like ghosts that look like the people from the movie Carnival of Souls. They look a little bit like they look like them, but these ones are going to be the ones in this one here are going to be more like along like your blurry black and gray ones. The the
Okay.
the yeah, there will be some real ones, but there will be some like that have like the black and the gray and one of them's, eyes are going to be bigger than the other one and stuff like that. It helped me
Mm,
articulate when it came to certain ghost stories, how I wanted ghosts to look. You know, like, do I
okay.
want them to be Civil War soldiers? Do I want them to be people who died? Do I want them to be people who drank the poison Kool Aid? You
Yeah.
know,
Or things that were never people to begin with.
yeah. Like, I believe wherever we die, we stay there. Our spirit stays there, or we just kind of come, every once in a while, kind of like, okay, who's living here now? Okay, they are. Okay, cool. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Have the ability to do a flyby visit and see what's going on.
yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Do you ever get so into your storyline that you're writing, so into your characters that you freak yourself out?
Um, Not really. I've written the end of a book and broke down in tears.
Okay. Was
Yeah,
that because the story was over, or that's because somebody died at the end, or
somebody died at the end,
so
and
you attach to your characters very much?
yes, yes. A part of myself is always in these characters. Like
I
Colin
gotcha.
McCoy, he has a part of me. I won't say what it is because then I'll ruin the whole story. He
Mhm.
has a part of me inside with him, and he carries it with him like a boulder, a heavy boulder. And he tends to, he doesn't let it weigh him down so much. He's just, he's doing this thing. He's got these 3 kids that have to go to Texas and get to an army base, and it's a safe zone. And he tries to take them, but these guys steal his food. They steal his, and they rip the spark plug out of his boat. So now they have to go through town and find the spark plug and come back and go to Texas. So he's doing this to kind of not so much get his own self out of Ohio, but to uphold a promise to these 3 kids.
Okay.
And all this, you know, stuff ensues. And I mean, a lot of people have read it and they said, nothing better happened to the baby.
Well, and don't you think your readers become attached? I mean, you do in movies too, and it may not
Yeah.
always be the good guy. Sometimes you attach to the bad guy in the movie. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes the main characters are so stupid that you've got. It's like, okay, man, if you don't kill that one first, that one needs to go.
Like if you watch the remake of Dawn of the Dead,
Oh yeah,
okay, Steve, the guy with the boat. Okay, we know him now as Phil Dunphy from Modern Family.
right.
You were like, man, he's such an asshole, but hey, he's got a boat. Maybe he's right.
I don't know. I was rooting for him to go. He was one of them. Eat him first. Eat him first. you know, I mean, I wasn't always rooting in Walking Dead for the living people. I was always rooting for
Yeah,
some of the zombies. What zombie's going to eat who, how next?
yeah. Because because
You can't be into horror without flipping those positions
yeah,
sometimes.
like I remember reading those comics and just wondering, like, telling myself, who are they going to get to play Negan? I just kept thinking, who are they going to get to play Negan?
Oh man, and what a good
Oh,
choice.
oh yes, yes. My mom loved him. God bless her soul. She had the biggest crush on him when he was in Supernatural. If she'd have seen that, she would have been heartbroken.
Uh,
She would have been like, no, no, not him, not
yep.
him. She used to say, she used to watch. I mean, like when he was on Supernatural, she used to look at my brother and I and go, see that guy right there? That's a man. Okay, that's a man right there.
I mean, with every person he killed on The Walking Dead, my husband was like, "That's Negan." Yes. I mean, like, he was the character for me that I hated so passionately
Yeah.
because of what he did to Glenn. What he did to
Yeah.
Glenn just was unforgivable. Could never forgive him for that.
And I'm
Even at
surprised,
the
like,
end,
they even, like, Lauren Cohen's character forgave him for it. I'm going, what?
kind of. Kind of. Never
What?
really trusted him. Never really trusted him, though.
Yeah.
And how many seasons did it take her to forgive? Yeah.
But like I said, I mean,
Almost
I've
down
never
to
like
the
watched the show myself. I've never watched it. I read the comics.
Ah,
Okay. But from like, what I saw, people were like, oh man, he's playing Negan. This is going to be good.
he was amazing.
And man, that was such good. That was such a good marketing move by AMC to not
Yes.
tell you who he murdered until what was it, 6 months later or 8 or 7 months later?
Oh, yeah.
So you had to sit there and go, when's the next
Oh,
season?
my God.
Damn it.
Oh.
Like,
Yeah, because you were going through the list of characters. Like, okay,
Yeah.
it might be okay if it was this person, but
Yeah.
it's not this person, but it could be,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, and they picked the meekest, nicest person.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
I'm like doing this for the next season of Stranger Things. I'm like,
mhm.
gonna make me
Oh, I
wait till
know. The
November.
countdown.
Gonna
We're
make me wait till November.
Yep.
You're just like,
What
gonna make me wait till November, you son of a bitch.
what a good series.
I guess they're
Yeah.
gonna stretch it to like 3 parts.
Are they?
I think one half comes on November 26th, December 1st, and December 31st.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, why don't you guys just show it all? I think they're afraid that we're going to binge watch the whole thing.
And that's what I do. Like, I will wait until the season is over with, and then I'll sit and, in one night, 2 nights, watch all of them. The Last of Us. I'm a big fan of The Last of Us. I'm not a video gamer,
Yeah.
can't run and shoot
Yeah.
and jump at the same time. Like, I'm horrible hand-eye coordination. But I knew the premises because my son played The Last of Us. And so I knew, I know how it ends. I know all, I know how the game ends. I don't know how the
Yeah.
show's going to end. But that's one of them that I watched this time. We watched it every week. It was weird because I wanted
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
It's like, but wait a minute. No, now I have to wait 7 more days for it to come out again. And and I'm terrible with books that I really like too. Like, like your horror genre. I love those kind of books. I will read the beginning. And if I get hooked on it, I have to jump ahead and read the end. Because if it has a sucky ending, I won't finish the book.
Oh.
I'm terrible. Like, and it can be sad. It doesn't have to be like all happy, but it can't be one of those, what was that movie? I want to say Species, where you go through the whole damn movie,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
rat ran away or something. And I'm like, what the fuck? I felt so cheated at the end of that movie. Like, no, I watched the whole thing. Like, I sat through this entire movie to get that ending.
I watched Pet Sematary on VHS, and then I read the book.
The book was so much better.
I loved the ending of the book a lot better. I even went to
Yes.
go see the remake, and I was pissed about that remake. I was like,
Oh, that remake was,
oh my
my
God.
opinion, horrible, horrid.
And the remake of Salem's Lot, I was expecting better.
Oh, I didn't like it either.
I I know what they were going with it. I really did. But we've got to get a real Barlow. If anybody has read that book, Barlow is he's not Nosferatu.
No.
If you like people said, okay, what's like your closest comparison to Barlow? And I always tell them, have you seen the show What We Do in the Shadows? The TV
Yes.
show.
Yes.
Nandor. Nandor is as close as they're going to come to a real Barlow. He was not a Nosferatu. He was
No.
Romanian. He was suave. He was debonair. He was just like, oh, your faith has failed you yet again. You know that there. He kind of he charmed you.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Every time they've done that movie. I even watched the one with Rob Lowe, and I was like,
Oh God, I'm sorry. That was 2 hours wasted. That was
I
so
just kept
bad.
thinking in my head, like, you guys have this. You have the vampire gold mine. What are you doing with it?
Obviously sitting on it because they didn't use it.
Just make Barlow a human being, you know? Make him a human being. It's not a bad thing if you make him a human being, you
No.
know? And I've always thought Sam Neill would have been an excellent Straker.
Hmm.
I've always thought Sam Neill would have been an excellent Straker. Now that I
I'd have
watch
to
that,
think on
yeah.
that for a minute. But yeah, I
Now that I
know
watch that, yeah.
I know you could, in my opinion, the remake was so bad you could have put anybody in it and it could have been better.
And I mean,
It was just that bad.
because I read the book before I watched the movie. I'm like, okay, hopefully they do this right. Hopefully they give us a real human Barlow. Now, got the same thing. We got the same thing, and I'm going.
Well, they did
And,
that with The Shining. I mean,
yeah,
truthfully, I thought the remake of The Shining was terrible.
it wasn't.
I,
It's close to the book. It's close to the book than
it
than
is.
Kubrick. Kubrick was going for more of a art house ghost story.
Yep.
If you read the book, The Shining,
Yep.
he was going. I think, in my opinion, and this just my opinion,
Hmm.
King was concentrating on what could trigger that kind of stuff. What could trigger us to open up that chest of of ghosts.
Well, yeah.
He
I just
had
think
he
the
had
acting in it
cabin
was so bad.
fever. He had cabin fever. He had isolation. He had alcoholism. He had,
Yep.
and after a while, that stuff starts to trigger, you know, that stuff starts to trigger some childhood trauma. It can make
Oh,
you see
yeah.
things that are not there. It can make you go crazy.
Right.
And
Right.
and
And
I
the
mean,
pressure to write the book, the pressure, and he had
yeah,
writer's block and could not write, and his mind was going everywhere but where it should.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
and
I
I've
thought the
always told
plot was
people,
good. The
yeah,
acting was just so bad.
well, Wendy really doesn't look like Shelley Duvall in the book. She does
No.
look more like Rebecca De Mornay. She looks
Yes.
more like a cheerleader. And I've like always thought that, the remake was good. I think they picked the wrong person to do it. My brother and I have always said that Christian Slater might have been a good Jack Torrance because of he's got like you know he's got the face. Um,
Mhm.
I was watching um, a thing on YouTube about that movie, and Jack Nicholson was not their first choice.
Oh, really?
You know who Warner Brothers wanted Kubrick to get?
Who?
Robin Williams.
No.
They wanted him to get Robin Williams, and he's like, no, 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 I'm going with Jack.
No, Jack plays such a he's able to play those crazy characters where they can switch gears so quickly, and he does it so realistically.
Yeah,
And I think his eyes, he has the ability to change the way his eyes look. I
yeah,
don't mean like visually look, but I mean the way he presents with his facial expressions, and his eyes say so much.
yeah.
He was amazing in that movie. But okay, so I was gonna say what was the name of the movie, and I just drew a blank. Oh my. Silent Hill.
Yeah.
They did good with that one. That was one of them that I thought every time they've remade it, it has gotten better.
I've never played the game. I watched the movie. I was like, my brother and sister and I were like, hey, this seems like a good movie. They made it out of a video game. Never played
Yeah.
a video game before. Let's
I've
see
never
what it's
seen the
like.
video game.
And I watched that movie and I was like, Alice Krieg, damn.
Yeah.
She can pull
Have
it
you
off.
seen the 3D? Have you seen the 3D version of that?
No, I haven't.
So it's like straight out of hell. Like,
Wow.
as the flakes, as the dust is coming, the waste, it's like
Yeah.
all around you in the 3D. And as the
Wow.
nurses are coming in and the things are coming out of the rooms, you can see them. They're coming in from your peripheral.
Yeah.
And the first time I watched that, I was like ducking. I was, like one of those
Yeah.
characters that I'm trying to think if they had eyes or they just had the cone and they had
Yeah. The cone with the big,
yeah. Yeah, that big long knife thingy, and they came and it slung, and you just kind of went, because it's coming right at you in the screen. They did an amazing job on that. Probably one of my favorite 3D movies.
Because one time they here in Ohio, they played Friday the 13th Part 3, which was in 3D.
Mm.
And I actually went to go see it in 3D. I'm like, I got to do this. I got to see this in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
And the part with the damn yo-yo going like this, the whole time.
You're like leaning back.
Oh my. And I was not the only one. But recently, I think 2 years ago, they had Jaws come back out in 3D.
Oh,
and I
cool movie in 3D.
See it. I did not go see it. I was like, damn it, that's what I wanted to go see. And I wanted to take my nephew to see it because he and I are both, shark and alligator and, Lake Placid. He and I will watch those and Jason movies all the time. And I think we sat and watched 3 of them one time. We watched 7 and 8. We watched the first one, then we jumped all the others and watched 7 and 8. And we're just like it's nothing. We're just, he killed her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you remember, you're old enough for this. You remember the first Hellraiser?
Yeah.
So I went to the theater and saw Hellraiser, and that movie upset me. And I like horror, but there was just something about that crossed a line for me in that time period for what I had been exposed to.
Yeah.
And now when I watch it, I'm like, I'm not. It's so it's almost. I love the concept of it. The concept of it is so good, but the movie itself just doesn't. It doesn't have that thrill of up. Once you see something and you're exposed to it, you got to keep upping the bar.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have that shock value anymore that it had the first time.
Have you seen the remake?
I don't think so.
Try the remake. I thought the remake was good. But Pinhead in that one is a woman.
See, I don't like when I get attached to my people.
It's actually not bad.
Not bad.
It's actually not bad. If you read the book, Pinhead's not exactly the main villain. Frank is the main villain.
Well, yeah.
Okay, Pinhead, he, he wasn't really like, I'm the, I'm like Jaws, I'm like Jason and Freddy. He wasn't the main culprit. He wasn't the star villain.
Well,
Okay,
no, because he was just the deliverer of what they
and
requested in the box. Frank was the
and
one that had people killing people and everything else.
yeah, and in the book, he doesn't tell you what species Pinhead even is.
Okay.
He
So that
doesn't
makes
tell
it
you.
more, okay.
The Hellbound Heart. I read it uh, a year ago. Loved it. Loved it. I even bought a copy of it.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
So when you, because you're a writer, when you, are you more attached to the movies or are you more attached to the books? Like, which
I'm
do you
more
prefer?
attached the books, the books, because I've I've always looked I've always looked at a movie like it's a book condensed down.
Yeah, it's supposed
Okay,
to be.
if they did Pet Cemetery like the book, the ending would have blown people away.
Right.
You know, had the camera
Yes.
caught him playing solitaire like this, and then panned over to that side of the table where her hand just came right down on the table, and then ended, that would have given it some more shock value because you
Yep.
would have known it was her. I think when it comes to adapting books to movie screen, they go, okay, we're going to use this chapter and this angle here. We're not going to have this, but we're going to have that.
Hmm.
Okay, like if you read Cycle of the Werewolf with Stephen King, which was later adapted to a movie called Silver Bullet.
Yes.
That book is not about Marty. Marty is not in that book for months because he tells you like it's mostly a cycle of a werewolf changing. Okay, it's a cycle of the werewolf going out and killing people.
Right.
Marty does not come in until probably the fifth month, maybe. But I think what they did was they took like, okay, there's a little boy, he's in a wheelchair, his friends are dying because there's a werewolf out there. And the town is frightened, it's besieged, it's chasing people away. We're going to use this as a coming of age horror movie. I've always thought that's what Silver Bullet was. It was more of a coming of age horror movie. Whereas the book, he tells you, okay, in January, this guy died on the railroad. In February, this guy died while drifting. In
So you
March,
see the
this
pattern much better. The
yeah,
pattern. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You're right
And
about that. And the movie just kind of made it all
yeah, they made
woofy.
it to
It
where
was
it's
all
like
woofy.
they they not so like it was more like we're gonna we're gonna make it to where Marty is the hero, but he's the hero without legs. That's why people, I think, when they think of M. Night Shyamalan's The Village,
Yes.
okay, you got to think about M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. That is one of my favorite movies of his because you have this blind girl combing through this forest trying to get medicine for her husband. She can go by sense of smell and by sense of touch. She can't see anything. She's blind, you know?
Hmm.
So you have Marty, who's in a wheelchair, fighting off a werewolf, and then you have Bryce Dallas Howard's character, who's blind, fighting off a creature to get to the town to get some medicine. And I think that's to me, good ingredient of keeping a good horror movie going. Okay, it tightens the suspense. For
Yes.
example, my book Dead River. There's a baby in it. There's an 8-month-old baby in it. Everybody who has book blurred that book has said nothing better happened to the baby.
Because
They didn't
everybody's
care if
going, that's the character everybody's going to bond with, is the one who's the most innocent that you got to protect. So
yeah,
as they're
and
reading the book, they're protecting that, they're into that story. Sure.
yeah. I mean, they could care if Colin or anybody else dies, but that baby better not die.
Right.
And when I first wrote that book, whoa, was it long? Wow, it was almost a 1,200-page book.
That's long.
Right.
How long? God, I can't spit it out. It's one of those word nights. How long is the book? How long did you shorten it? How far did you shorten it to?
Well, technically, it would have gotten to 620.
Mm-hmm.
I knocked it down to 421.
Wow.
Yeah,
By two
and
thirds.
yeah, I was like, I gotta do this. I gotta cut this down. I'm there. I can still keep it suspenseful. They can still be focused on the baby, but I can't have them dilly dally. I mean, in some parts, yes, but not something like this. Because this book was supposed to be pretty much they're on the run. So while you're reading this book, you're running alongside with it. You're watching everything that's happening because they got to keep going. Because while they're trying to get to the auto parts store, while they're going this way, there's 3 hordes of zombies coming this way, and this way.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So they've got 3 hordes converging into one, and they can't double back. If somebody gets injured, they're fucked.
There's three. Yeah.
We got to leave them
Yeah.
behind. Okay? Because if one of us goes back there and stops, we could somehow jeopardize the other 3.
Do you lose yourself in the details? Like because obviously you're writing a book, not doing a movie. So you want everybody to see it and taste it and smell it. And to me, that would be so hard to get it articulated without massive amounts of writing, because you want them to be right there, and you catch yourself probably describing out the ass trying to get people to understand what it is you're trying to say.
Yeah. Sometimes I can get hung up on the details. It'll be as if, like, okay, I got to describe what these things smell like.
Mm-hmm.
What's your first smell sense when it comes to a zombie? Like, you're going to putrid, decaying of bones, you know, excuse me, flesh. We have, a lot of smells. Like if it's the wintertime and we're walking through a forest, the first 2 smells that we're going to smell is pine sap and wood smoke. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, how do I put this into perfect detail about how these things smell?
Hmm.
And I came up with the fact that they smell worse when they're dead. Because at the beginning of the book, Colin is woke up by 2 of them stumbling toward his boat. And he has to shoot them. Well, when he's dragging them in the water, he stops and throws up because they smell worse when they're dead. And when you're thinking like, okay, this is a dead body.
Right, that bloater floater smell, that rotten flesh. And
yeah, they already smell worse already. How could they possibly smell worse than that when they're dead,
yeah.
And you have to put those scents in. Sometimes I take from real places I see. Like, I live around Athens County. I take a lot of pieces from Athens County and I'll switch something around.
Sure.
And make it look as if like, hey, instead of the basketball arena being here and the football arena being there, I'll switch them
Sure.
so that nobody gets them, you know. And
Nobody goes, oh, I was there at that time and he's writing about me. And yeah,
yeah,
that whole
yeah,
thing.
or I mean, I don't want to like going by there and taking pictures saying like, hey, you know, here's the arena in, you know, Dead River. We're going to go and visit this place and take 100 pictures of it. But um,
AKA Twilight.
yeah.
Because I was one of them that did it. I went to Forks, Washington, and took pictures with my daughter. We had a whole week trip. I'm a big Twilight. Don't even laugh. The acting was terrible. I know. It was the book series that I fell in love with. The book series. Read them all first. Read them first. The details in it meant the world to me because it was so detailed. And then when you go and it's like it really is described. You know, the trees look like that and the hills look like that. And that was my amazement. You were talking about the zombies. Go ahead.
And sometimes when it comes to details, this is why they always say if you're going to write a lot, read a lot.
Yeah.
Because you've got to learn, even from the people today, even, you know, from the writers today, you gain some kind of experience when it comes to details. Like if you've ever read Grady Hendrix, his book, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, that second chapter is a masterclass in description.
Yes,
like, I literally tell
very,
people,
very
like,
well written.
If you want a masterclass in description, just read that first page of that chapter where he describes the girl's father driving down the road, turning right, and he describes the house that she's going to be in. I'm thinking, like, whoa, I can actually picture this place in my mind.
Yeah, like you're walking in. Like you're walking in there with him seeing it.
Yeah, and that's what somebody said about my book, Consuming Darkness, was that I was always able to catch, you know, pay attention to details. You know?
What was that zombie series? God, it's fairly recent. It's not an old series at all. I say old, within the last 10 years or so. Gosh.
The TV series?
No, book series. They never made movie. Well, they may have adapted for a movie, but that, as far as I know, they didn't. My son had me read the series, and it started out, it was like the apocalypse is happening, and I want to say there was 28 or 32 people that it took you through the lives of each one of them as
World War Z?
No, that may have been the movie that it was based on. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank.
Wow.
I want to say there was like 6 or 7 books in the series. And it went into, you know, okay, so, you know, I'm making this shit up. There's Bob the Builder, and he's in his contracting office, and the apocalypse happens. The zombies are here. Everybody's dying in the streets. They're eating each other. There's Sally the shoemaker, and it goes through each one, and then it goes through. The series takes you through what happens to each one of them and how they cope with the apocalypse. You know, some suicide themselves, and some of them kill other people, and some of them rescue people and take them in, and some of them, and how they fare at the end gets down to just a few main characters that have the struggles of, you know, do I leave somebody behind? Do I stay behind and die knowing that it's coming? Like, what do you do? I cannot think of. Oh my gosh.
It's been a while.
Zombie book series. You had me read. This is like when you got your phone there and you text your son real quick, like, do you remember that zombie series? It's actually sitting on my shelf in the other room, but I don't have to get up and go get it. You know, so I'm a huge zombie freak movie. I think I've seen almost every zombie movie out there. I'm sure there's some underground ones I have not seen, but I love
Yeah.
zombie movies. And when my kids were little, we used to play. This sounds terrible. I'm not Mother of the Year, but when my son was growing up, not necessarily, well, my daughter too, we would stop in the middle of Target and say, okay, the zombie apocalypse is hit right now. What's the first thing you're going to grab? You know, pick 5 things that you're going to grab. Where are you going to go? How are you going to defend yourself? And it was a fun game. Like people around us were always like looking at us like, what the fuck are these people doing? Right. But we'd always talk about this. And, you know, The Walking Dead came out and their animatronics was absolutely phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
best in the market. Like nobody has still made zombies. As far as I'm concerned, The Last of Us, their zombies are probably every bit as good because they went with the fungi instead of the
Yeah.
zombies. So like that's something totally different. So they got the
Like
market in that.
when it comes to zombies, I'm old fashioned. I don't like them running.
No, zombies should no World War Z though, but it depends on what virus and what they were introduced with, and
Um,
I like that aspect.
George Romero said they should never run. They're not
And I
track
get
runs.
that
These
because your
people are dead.
processes aren't. Yeah,
Okay, you're like half dead. You're just
but what if it
your
was
your
something that
stumbling.
really changed? What if it was something that changed the way you look at things, like a virus that alters the brain and makes them like extremely hyperactive
They
and
would
crowd phenomena?
that I would totally understand. That would be probably about the only excuse. And even even people be like, okay, I'll take that as an excuse. But
Because
I
so
mean,
many of them are about viruses that are released and
yeah,
variants, you know, and then you
yeah,
think of like COVID and, you know, I'm just going to say it
yeah.
out there.
Because I mean, when I did Dead River, I didn't know what to. I didn't know what was gonna, make them rise up. I wanted to use COVID, but I was like, no, 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 I can't. That's just bad
No,
for business. No, no. I was like, you know what? How about you not tell them why they rose? They just rose. Okay. The
hmm
cemetery just opened up for business. You don't have to give a reason. You don't have to tell them why. You don't have to tell them anything. Just the zombies rose. They came.
Yeah,
And
and they didn't give well, they did give a reason in his book and his movies. They did. I mean, it
yeah,
was gas
it was.
leaks or whatever toxin.
I
Yeah.
think no. I think it was that they said it was a comet. If you watch Night of the Living Dead, they
Yes,
mentioned
you're
either
right.
a comet or they mentioned something fell off of a truck
Yeah, in the
and it
second
spilled
one, it
onto the
was
cemetery.
the goo stuff ran from the mortuary. The book series
Yeah.
is called Autumn.
Okay.
The book series is called Autumn. And the reason I brought that up was all these movies, they talk about, the zombies are coming. Okay, the virulence and none of them, the movies ever make sense to me. Like, like, oh, I just stabbed a zombie or the blood splattered in my face. But if I touch myself, I could get the disease, but it went all over my face and I didn't get anything. Like there's always those
Yeah.
those little bugs in the planning that didn't
Yeah.
quite work out well. So then Autumn comes along and I'm reading Autumn and it as you go into it, it didn't do it at first. It started, the series, and I won't give any spoiler alerts, but the first few books in it talk about the smell, like the decaying, and you could smell them coming,
Yeah.
and people were plugging up their vents and they were plugging up things because the smell, and then it became the sound. And I
Yeah.
had never thought about the sound and how the constant buzzing and the clicking of the bugs that were inside, and it became so loud with all the hundreds and thousands of zombies that the streets were full of this noise and you couldn't escape the noise
Yeah.
even in homes. And that
Yeah.
made a visual for me that was just like, oh damn.
Yeah. Like the first zombie movie I ever watched was the original Night of the Living Dead. I had to stay up until like 3 o'clock in the morning to watch it. And if you notice, as the movies get older, he got
Mm-hmm.
more gory with it. He got more gory with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And like he got to where like in Night of the Living Dead there was like maybe a piece of skin or
Right.
the way that their eyes looked or the way that their body moved.
Or he'd
And then
show
you
them
have
coming down on the head, but you didn't
yeah,
see anything coming out.
yeah. And then in Day of the Dead, no, Dawn of the Dead, he
Mm-hmm.
started getting to where he was showing them ripping a shoulder open, or he showed them
Wasn't
getting
there one
getting
gut
getting
scene?
shot.
Wasn't there one gut scene in that one too? Like where one of them was pulling the bowels or they were going for the bowels?
I think you're
It might have
thinking
been the
Dawn,
third one. Okay, I was gonna say it might have been
Dawn
the
of the
third one.
Dead, because it was Rhodes. It was Captain Rhodes. They just ripped his leg. They just ripped his whole waist off. They ripped his
Yep.
his
Yep.
legs and waist completely off. And I guess that line that he said was improvised. He asked George
Oh,
Romero if he could say it. And George was like, "Yeah, go ahead." So he just laying there like they're just turning apart, and he's like, "Joe got it," and I'm like,
yeah.
"Damn,
That was good. That was good. Yeah. Yeah. It's like that
get in your
eagle
character."
flying down on the mouse and the little mouse going, but I got the
Yeah,
last word in.
yeah, and I mean, and when it comes to zombies, that's how I've always liked them. I've always liked them slow. I want to have a fighting chance. And
Mm-hmm.
people always said, "Well, where would you go?" And I'm like someone asked me, like years ago, like if the zombie apocalypse was going on now, where would you go? Shopping mall.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, I mean, shopping malls nowadays would be awesome because there's hardly anybody in there and you've got all the goods. You know, shopping malls on Black Friday would fucking suck.
Yeah,
That's not where I'd want to be like when everybody
yeah,
turns. No, no, it would not. Shopping malls in a riot would not be where I'd want to be. Wouldn't
yeah,
that be something? Have a zombie apocalypse in the middle of a riot.
yeah.
It's not been done.
No, it
To
hasn't.
my knowledge, it hasn't been done. And think about that. What if the cops sprayed? I'm not against cops. I'm just what if?
Yeah,
What if somebody sprayed the crowd like with some kind of gas or something and people started mutating into zombies?
I've always like like you mentioned the Black Friday. You know, imagine something getting into like a shopping mall, like a doctor having already been bit,
Mm-hmm.
and he's kind of like, okay, I'm going to cut through the mall because I got these people after me. They want to make me a guinea pig. It's like, okay, I just want to like cover up here and not let anybody see my bite wound. You know,
Well, yeah, because you're not going to show that. If you know and you're
and
able, you're going to cover that up as
and
long as you can.
it's Black Friday and he's getting bumped out of fucking everywhere. He's getting bumped around, and all of a sudden, instead of getting to a place where he can cauterize this wound and heal it, he ends up turning. I
Well,
think
yeah.
somebody did one about that. I think someone did one about that called Black Friday.
Was that zombie? Was that a zombie or was that a?
I don't know.
See, this is why we have phones up during podcast. Black Friday, not deals. Movie.
It's actually a book.
Okay, there's also a movie. So are we going book or movie?
Book. I think there's a book
Book.
about it.
Book. True story. Wait a minute. The true story
I
of
think it's got like a
Bombay
black
bomb
cover.
blast.
I think it's got like a cover of a. It's got like a black cover to it.
Okay.
It's completely dark cover.
Well, this is militant. Exposed. Audio. James Patterson. That would not be it.
I probably have to
Bombay
look it up
bomb
and send you the link.
blast. Let me add the word zombie. Well, it helps if you spell zombie, right? Okay. Black Friday, a zombie story.
Yeah. So should like a
Crystal
whole
Wireman?
pitch. I think that's it. I could be wrong. It could be like a whole, like the whole cover's black.
Nope, this one is not.
Huh.
But I'm looking for a synopsis. It says it's funny, but admit it, we've all been there. We've all shopped it or worked it. We've been in a large store during the chaos of Black Friday. It's the busiest shopping day of the year, but imagine that it was more. The ominous sound of the name Black Friday could mean so much more, and it could be awful. That's
I'll find it and send it to you. Okay.
Yeah. So that was off
Okay.
of Amazon. I'm not violating any copyrights. I'm reading straight off of
Yeah.
Amazon. Black Friday, a zombie story by Crystal Wireman. Don't know how it is. Don't know if that's the book. Have no clue.
Yeah.
Huh. There is a whole zombie series called The Complete Rot and Ruin Collection.
Yeah, that's Jonathan Mayberry.
I have not read
I'm not
that.
sure how you say it. I've got those. I think I read them like 5 years ago. They're okay. I think they're more I think they're anything by John Mayberry is good. You know?
Cool. Yeah, well, I'm telling you, autumn is a little slow, but the details, like, you get so hooked. Like, so my first, again, if I don't like the characters, I have a really hard time with it. And there were whole parts of books that I was just like, man, I hated that character. And now I've got to read like 5, 6, maybe even half the book chapters about this character and how they would cope. And it was so hard for me to get past that, but I made myself not skip it and I was really glad that I didn't.
Yeah.
Because in the end, those were some of the characters that may or may not have made it, that were, their backstory was important, because it's funny, because even though everybody came from a different area, it all tied in. Yeah. And the humanity, like, oh my God, to this day, I could go, that person reminds me of this friend of mine. This person reminds me of this person that I know. Like, they made the characters so human, just like our neighbors next door or our family members, that you're like, oh, hell yeah, I would have shot that person in a heartbeat. That would have been the first person that I suicided for them. Not that I'm a violent person, but
like,
I got that one person.
There's a character in Dead River that people, when they read it, they're going to be like, well, she's getting on my nerves. She's annoying, and I don't trust her. But I know what she's up to, and the other ones don't. So I'm not going to say who the character is because I don't want to spoil it.
Right.
I don't want to spoil that. But that was one of the best parts about writing that book. It wasn't just about getting in touch with that zombie lover in me. It was like, okay, this person's going to have ulterior motives, and that's what's going to keep these people glued. Like, okay, what does she got planned? She's got something planned, and they're going to be like, okay, I'm going to keep reading because I don't want the baby to die. I want to know what she's up to, and I want to know if these people survive. And I think that's what makes a good book that could possibly be adapted into a movie. If they're going to take this angle, and they're going to go and put it with this one and go, we're just going to do it like this here. And that's where people like us are like, we want a human Barlow. Okay? We want Barlow to be a vampire and human like in the book. But I think there's like a scare factor when it comes to, the Nosferatu one that we always get. Right.
Except for they failed horribly in that one. I don't know.
I
I just
watched
love
5 minutes of Firestarter.
Oh,
I watched 5 minutes. I gave it 5 minutes. I was like, you know what? No, 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 no. Rainbird is not supposed to be part of the lot. He's supposed to be a merciless, heartless killer. He is not supposed to have powers. No. Kill it. Dig it out. Boom.
yep. No, I hear you. Do you ever
Nope.
get I know we're like past our hour point, but do you ever get partway through a book and you're like, well, fuck, this isn't going the way I wanted it to go? Scrap that,
um,
start another one, and then use that part for another book, going, oh man, this part,
um,
this book that I started would be great for this.
yeah, yeah, because there's a character in Dead River named Malik. He calls himself the motherfucking king of Ninth Street. He's a gangster. And the woman that the person that I was talking about with that has ulterior motives, her name is Pixie. She's his girlfriend. Um, she gets his credit card. She gets, he takes care of her. She takes care of him.
Mm-hmm.
And originally, when I wrote Malik, he was supposed to be accompanied by two other gangsters, and he was going to tag along with Colin as like the comical sidekick. And I thought, no, that's a little too cliche. That's kind of like Resident Evil. I want to say the second Resident Evil, where Mike Epps was the comical sidekick to,
Yep.
Odette Fair and Mila Jovovich. He was the comical sidekick, and I was like, no, I'm going to cliche with this. I gotta stop this. I gotta stop going cliche. If I want this book to be original, I gotta do something new. So I took Malik and I put him in the frat house with Pixie and Dominic and Teresa, and I said, Malik and Pixie are not going to like Teresa because she's a cop and she's trying to tell them what to do for their safety. And of course, they go and they try to get Dominic to be on their side and outvote her, outnumber her. And Teresa's like, no, I'm a cop. I'm trying to look out for you. This has nothing to do with me telling you what to do because I have a badge. This has to do with your safety. And Pixie, if I tell you you're staying home while Malik and I go out to go get stuff from the supermarket down the road, your ass is staying home.
Right.
Okay? And of course, Malik was in it for like maybe 2 chapters. But you got to know Malik, you got to know him, you got to know what kind of person he was. But like I said, it's you do something like this, you never want to go cliche because then people will be like, oh, okay, so he's the funny lot guy that's in all of the horror movies
because there's always one. There's always one
who always ends up dead.
Yeah.
And
just like there's always one bimbo chick that is dumber than a rock and makes the bad decisions and
wears less clothes than everybody else, and she's going to go see what that noise is in the trees, and you're like, no, we don't know.
Here we go again.
You don't need to go see what's stay in the cabin, bitch. Stay in the fucking cabin. Don't go outside.
Yeah. But here it goes. Here's that one. Wow. Well, this has been fun. I love talking about horror stuff and horror movies and horror books and zombies, because zombies are just such a big part of horror. Like we've grown to love our zombies. We aren't going to love it so much if it ever hits, but as long as it's fictional, we love them.
Yeah.
It may be hitting one of these days, but for now we're enjoying them. It's been a pleasure. Your links are all included in the YouTube, and continue to share the YouTube. And again, Brian Smith with his horror stories, and you can go to the link that was provided and you can get an upload of his books, and you can check him out. And what a pleasure it's been. Fascinating discussion as my cats are fighting in the corner now. I just ran into my podcast room and they're a little kitty going on here, or psycho kitty. Brian, thank you so much for staying. Can you hear him? They're like,
Yeah.
listening to each other. Kenny.
I love it.
Hey, Kenny. Throw something at him and he'll go away. And the other kitty. It's been a long night for the kitties. Thank you so much for staying up late and hanging.
Thank you for having me.
It's been
Thank you
such
for
a
having
pleasure.
me. Thank you for having me. And whenever you want me to come back, let me know. You can book
Absolutely.
me in October. I can talk about the book. I promise we'll talk about Blood on the Sand in October. Okay.
That'll be awesome. Yes. Let's do that when you release. I would love to do that. We'll have a release podcast party for you. That would be so
that'd be
awesome.
great.
Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate y'all. Love you. Brian, good night. Everybody take it easy. Have a blessed week. Yeah. Stay safe. Stay cool. Hydrate. Unless you're in Montana and they're supposed to have snow. So stay warm and be safe. And I know the weather is doing funky
things. Send some of it this way.
Yeah, send it this way because God knows we're in a heat wave up here. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. Good night.